Hi, Diane. Okay, Melanie, you'll just need to unmute yourself. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, we are waiting for a couple more people to join us, but the purpose of this Zoom is to help give people a lot of the background information that we have had to live through and experience in all the activism we've done over the last 2 or so years, 2.5 years for me, and longer for Melanie, and longer for everybody else. Um, the format of today's Zoom is going to be Melanie and I and one other speaker are going to be speaking, and we want everybody to ask. Feel free to ask questions, but please put them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them as they come up, and as we have time to fit them in. Also note that we are recording this Zoom, so we're going to be putting the video into YouTube. So I just want to make that clear. I'll repeat that later once more people join us. Um, we have been meaning to do this kind of a Zoom for a very long time. And it's because a lot of people seem to be confused about why Fight for NYCHA does its work differently compared to a lot of other groups. And we don't have a chance to really make a comment about that. And so the purpose of today's Zoom is going to be to go into a little bit of that and to kind of fill in the picture about why it's so hard to organize NYCHA residents, and why so many groups claim they're working for NYCHA, but yet it doesn't appear that there's a lot of coordination between the groups. So I just want to make three brief announcements. As we discuss some of this history, um, people may or may not want to, name names, but if you feel comfortable, you should. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Um, Secondly, a lot of us have ideas about what's going on, and unless we have evidence that something is definite or certain, we shouldn't be speculating or gossiping, and certainly not in a way that's going to hurt somebody. But we want to tell the truth as much as we can. And thirdly, we do want to focus on one important area, which is NYCHA residents. They have been facing different levels of danger, from the uninhabitable conditions of their apartments, from the toxic conditions of their apartments, and also from the poisonous conditions, because we're talking about lead paint, mold, asbestos, and other toxins and poisons, and and even lead in drinking water. But throughout all this, NYCHA residents also face a different kind of danger, and that's displacement. And that comes from rad impact conversion, and also the blueprint conversion that the mayor's been proposing and promoting. And one last thing, um, we should, uh, as we have this conversation today, we should try to aim for explaining. Actually, not explaining. We should try to ask each other, why do NYCHA residents face all this danger, and yet the response that we get from them is not one of people who face danger. There seems to be a disconnect. So if we have time, let's talk about that as we talk about all the other activists and activist groups. um, Melanie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Melanie Aucello. I am the TA president of NYCHA, formerly NYCHA RAD at 344 East 28th Street. Well, not formally, let's get that clear. It's in conjunction with. NYCHA still leases the land and RAD is the management company. So we're still NYCHA in many ways. So yeah, I've been TA president for almost 2 years now. And yeah, we need to have this meeting. So I'm glad that we're having this.
Okay. I'm just going to give a very brief history of Fight for NYCHA. Before we met Melanie, Fight for NYCHA began about January of 2019, I believe. And it came together because I kind of had been seeing the mayor move more and more toward disposing of public housing assets. I'd been following NYCHA for about 3 years before that, and I saw where the mayor was going. And because I saw the risk getting worse about the privatization of public housing, I asked around for people to help form the group. We came together. It was hard. We went through like different upheavals internally before we even got to Fulton Houses, which was the first development we went to organize once it became known that the mayor was going to try to demolish 2 buildings there and replace them with MIH towers. And he was going to bring Rad Impact over there. And the activism over there was very complicated. We organized residents to oppose the TA president, who was supportive of RAD, and many residents were against it. And because of the top-down nature of the bureaucracy at NYCHA, if a TA president does support RAD, it kind of goes through, and we'll talk about that later. While we were at Fulton Houses, we were undermined almost from the very minute we got there, sometimes internally. Our attorney at the time, Norman Siegel, he did his own part to undermine us when he fired Fight for NYCHA so that he could organize the residents that we had prior to that collectively organized. And he did that so that he could work closely with the elected officials when the position of Fight for NYCHA was we don't work with elected officials. And fast forward from that situation, we did some work in Brooklyn before we showed up at Melanie's building. And throughout, we opposed RAD Impact unconditionally, and our organizing was centered around targeting the mayor because it was he who was making these decisions. And that brought us to Melanie's building. And so, Melanie, what was your experience briefly? And then we'll talk about how we had interactions with other groups. So briefly tell us what was going on at your building when we met.
Okay. There's some people in the waiting room, I believe.
Yes.
I had been very frustrated for about a year or so with the lack of information about the whole RAD package. Definitely felt alone because there wasn't anybody else really around to help or to explain anything. So when I met Louis and I joined Fight for NYCHA, I learned a lot of things that, for lack of information or for lack of information divulged to NYCHA residents or TAs, I didn't know. We didn't have the tools. We had no idea what was going on. So my experience, it's still very frustrating. I see a lot of misinformation, a lot of propaganda. Residents are in danger, and there's, as Louis said, there's a huge disconnect that I still see that I've seen from the beginning. I don't think NYCHA residents realize how dangerous this is and that their lives are actually in danger. So we're just looking to try and find out the disconnect. And one of the major experiences I've had is the people or the groups that would reach out to me didn't really seem to be helpful. I felt in ways that I was like chasing my tail to do things that didn't seem that they were going to actually do anything to forward the work that needed to be done. So my work in the coalition Fight for NYCHA, we've actually had some results from the work. And I really would like, if anything, from this meeting for people to take away that if you could tell your neighbor, if you could talk to your TA president and let them know they need to get involved, they need to understand that if they do not, NYCHA might not survive this. We have to work together. There's no mistake about it. They're looking to dispose of NYCHA property, but also NYCHA residents. I'll leave it at that for right now.
Okay, thanks. Cynthia, I'm gonna ask you to unmute. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you have experienced other community groups trying to organize in NYCHA, and then Melanie and I will kind of fill in some of that too.
As you know, Wise Towers is in the same bundle as Melanie's development is. We have had other groups come up here when the bundle was first being put together. And without even talking to the presidents around here, they just started knocking on people's doors with their own personal agendas. Oh, join our group. We're going to help fight for your apartments. And we actually had to ask them to leave our development. They were putting up notices without asking our permission. They would make false statements that are not true. Anyone on this call that thinks that presidents have a say-so, and if their development goes rad, is sadly mistaken. We have no say-so. All right, if NYCHA decides to put your development into rad or packed, that's a decision they've made without including us, because they know we are 100% against it. We want to stay public housing. We don't want to be in rad. So they do not ask us for our opinions. What they do is watch everything we do to make sure we follow everything to the letter of the NYCHA law, because their goal is to disband as many TAs as they humanly can. If there's no TA existing when RAD comes in, NYCHA makes all the agreements. NYCHA makes all the decisions for your development. The TAs have no say-so in it at all. So if anything, NYCHA looks to get rid of us. They do not look to keep us as a unified front. And, you know, organizations made certain ones, not all, but certain ones think that they're helping us, where in fact they're not. They're making our job 10 times as worse. When you make statements that NYCHA presidents are on the take and we're getting paid to promote RAD and PACT, that's a lie. Nobody gets paid to promote anything. What you're doing is you're putting our safeties at risk. We've had presidents attacked, surrounded, spit at, many things done to us, because certain groups and certain podcasts keep saying that presidents are, you know, all for the RAD and PAC bundles, which we're not. So that needs to stop. That's the pushback we're getting up here.
Okay, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because in the beginning, you know, with Fight for NYCHA, we were in a situation where the TA president at Fulton, he did support RAD. That was Miguel Acevedo, as you know.
I know.
And so I think maybe that became a stereotypical impression that a lot of people had. But also, you know, when as we tried to, you know, Fight for NYCHA has tried to work with other groups. We've had meetings with so many people, and one of the groups we met with was is a group called Justice for All Coalition in Queens. And they told us that they were interested in replacing the TA presidents that they thought supported RAD, or weren't doing more for the residents. And I thought that was a wrong thing to focus on, because after our experience at Fulton, it became very hostile when we tried to um, pressure Miguel to change his mind. Because he could not change his mind, or would not, all that tension created was animosity between the residents. And
No outside agency should be trying to remove a president. Presidents are elected by residents. If the presidents don't do their job, the residents have the right to remove us. I went through that up here. The president before me did absolutely nothing for the residents. We did a hostile takeover. We had her removed through resident engagement, and we had new elections done. She would not help one resident with one single problem. Her entire board resigned under her because they could not work with her. But what Justice for All Coalition is doing is saying that we're all on the tape. And that's not true. They have made statements that we receive $50 for every apartment, or every tenant apartment, or every unit that we get to go along with these conversions. That's insane.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Melanie. Thank you for the invitation. I would just like to add my two piece.
okay,
And
yeah, I'm sorry, but this is a discussion, so we're gonna save questions for the chat, please. We're trying to make a presentation here about our experience with other groups. So I appreciate you have something to say, but we're gonna save some time for the end, please. Um, on the subject of, Justice for All Coalition, I want to add that in one of the meetings we had with them, and this is not to single them out, but in one of the meetings we had with them, we told them that the purpose of Fight for NYCHA was to radicalize the residents. And I want to make certain people understand what that means. We want people to understand what is the root cause of what's happening at NYCHA. What is the root cause? And we see the divestment of public housing as being in part a racist act, but also it's part of the government focusing on cutting back so that the wealthy are not taxed. As a result, the government is not making good on its obligations to the people. And it's always been our position that um, the power holders are responsible for this. And we've always, from the beginning, tried to focus people's attention on the mayor, because it's the mayor who's driving RAD Impact. He's the one who decided at NYCHA to bring RAD Impact and to escalate it to the point where it is now. And I have yet to see one of the other groups really go after the mayor, and it makes me wonder what kind of judgment are those groups exercising. Melanie or Cynthia, what do you say about the groups that are not going after the mayor?
Well, it's poor judgment. Community Voice is Heard. It's funded by the mayor. So, as much as they used to claim to be for NYCHA residents, they aren't. I used to be a CVH member. I left them because, number one, I felt it was wrong to try to charge people of low income such a high membership fee. Number two, they were being very irresponsible by not letting NYCHA residents know that if they get arrested while they're out there protesting, it's a cause to have their folders sent downtown for eviction. They also do not provide you with legal assistance or help. They're 100% funded by the mayor. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's why there's not that much pushback. Any organization that is being funded by the city is not helping NYCHA residents.
So Melanie, can you talk about what your experience was with, for example, Manhattan Legal Services?
Yes. So immediately, one of the first things I wanted to do was to get an attorney to represent our residents, especially when it came to RAD, but most especially the lease. NYCHA VPs, Jonathan Gouvet and Marissa Schaefer, were forcing legal aid on me. So were elected officials. And from working with them in the past, I didn't have a feeling that they were going to look out for the best interests of the residents, nor was Mobilization for Justice. We had worked with them before with adding residents to the lease, and all the paperwork was lost. And whether it was the fault of NYCHA or Mobilization for Justice doesn't matter. The fact is there was no follow-up, and there was these, to this day, there are still some of those very same residents without residents added to their lease. When I finally was able to get an attorney, it was Manhattan Legal Services. I was ecstatic. Anyone who knows this business knows how difficult it is to get anyone to represent you, independent of what's pushed on you for legal advice. And so basically they said that they were going to come to the development and they were going to read the lease and they were going to have a workshop. What ended up happening was they basically stopped talking to me, started talking with NYCHA, and had nothing to contribute to any problems of the lease. They didn't see any problems with the lease. And me just being a regular person, I could see many things wrong. And they basically just said the only thing they saw wrong with the lease was the clause that stated that residents could not wash their own windows. And they dropped me as a client when I questioned their ethics. And they never came to the development. They really didn't help. What the process is, they just bought a lot of time that we lost trying to find or secure another attorney, and more of the RAD hostile takeover, which is what I call is what happened here. Because even before RAD came here, I had people in NYCHA like Brian Honan trying to offer me people that would sell it to me, how great RAD was. And so he sold a gentleman by the name of Joe Gross. And there was a NYCHA meeting with Brian Honan and a couple of other people. And he was like, I'm gonna let you talk to this guy, Joe Gross, and he's gonna send you a sample lease and all these kind of things. And Joe Gross came to one resident meeting Zoom, and he told the residents how great it was. And we could go to his development and see how great it was. Never heard from him again. And it's turned out to be, just one fiasco after the other. And my own experience has been that I would be told by some electeds, I won't name them, that the reason why our building is suffering is because as a TA, I'm doing a poor job. And then I had the Justice for All Coalition basically say the same thing and say that they wanted to come to the development. And the past experience I had when I had reached out also to every elected official in this district for help, they also tried to take my voice and basically sent a letter to the developers saying that they were the voice of 344. And I had to argue with that. And I mean, it's just been an experience of every person that has said they wanted to help or offered to help did only make things worse and made me have to fight even harder to be heard.
Okay, I agree. That's been our experience too. That some groups come in and they make it hard for other people to be heard. But before we go back to Cynthia, I just want to give an example. For example, Cia Weaver, who this weekend we saw make some, I think, outrageous claims on Twitter. She claimed that she's been trying to save social/public housing. And for the last 2.5 years, I have yet to hear her say one thing about stopping RAD or PACT or the blueprint. And in fact, a few months ago, we discovered that she was supporting the blueprint. So there's a lot of misinformation out there by activists or activist groups saying that they care about NYCHA, But when push came to shove, we haven't seen them do one thing. I mean, Cynthia, what is your experience about, you know, some of the activists who claim they care about NYCHA?
Well, again, I'm going to bring it right back. We have activists out here that, well, they claim they're activists, but they don't actually. If you don't write a letter on behalf of a tenant that's going through a crisis, you can't call yourself an activist. If you're not supporting an actual tenant, what you're doing is blowing a lot of smoke. You're not helping anybody. Okay, and that's the issue I have with a lot of these so-called activists. They stand out there and they rah Black Lives Matter, this, that, and a third. But if you have a tenant with an issue, you won't sit down and compose an email and send it to the appropriate people to get somebody some help. And that should always be your number one concern. How can I unburden this person for the moment that's having a problem? That should always be your number one agenda, not how many likes you're going to get or how many followers you're going to get. It's what you can get accomplished at that very moment going forward to getting someone some relief in their apartment. So that's where, I fall short with people that call themselves activists. We have community boards that don't support us. Okay, so far, the only community board I've ever seen support their residents is Community Board 2 with the Soho NoHo project. Up here, Community Board 7 is tried to demolish Community Board's reputation because they're so well known for standing up for their community. CB7 doesn't stand up for us. Okay, I have 11 buildings out of the 36 that I oversee are currently without gas. We're in our 10th month with no gas. I asked Community Board 7 if they could write an email to NYCHA on behalf of my tenants to help push this process quicker to get the gas resolved. They told me they would take it into consideration and have yet to give any support. Okay, because we are not part of their agenda. We are the last on the totem pole to receive services from our community board or any acknowledgement around here. All right, that's why we don't work with too many outside agencies anymore, because when they come up here and they act like they're actually trying to help us, they're not. They're pushing their own agendas.
Okay, I hear you. I want to say something about that. It is true that Fight for NYCHA has been very aggressive against the mayor. And so if there is any agenda that we have, it's we're going after the power holder. And I think
Right.
that causes a lot of people to be confused because most people, I don't, when we go and organize, we have to go through a process to educate residents that it's the mayor who is responsible. He's the landlord. He oversees NYCHA. He selects the CEO. He appoints the board of directors at NYCHA, and most people don't realize that. Also, something you said to us last night when we were speaking. There should be some way that we coordinate with each other. Form a task force, like you said, between all these nonprofits, but it's so hard because the groups appear to be protecting the mayor. And until we deal with the fact that there are groups out there that are deliberately protecting the mayor, we're not going to get very far.
No, and sometimes I think they're there to block us from
Right.
achieving our goals.
That's,
Okay,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
if we achieve what we want, they don't get funded.
Right.
And that's when the mix-up comes in.
Yeah, I agree. Melanie, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I'd like to say also, we also touched on last night when we were talking the damage that these groups are doing. And to them, it's leisure, right? When they're helping us poor NYCHA residents. For us, it's our lives. When they make callous comments and jokes and do it for their leisure, as I think Cia Weaver said in one of her tweets, you know, that doing housing work was like for her leisure and politics was her work. It's not it shouldn't be a cavalier attitude. For example, the group that is going around saying, I think his name is Stan, that's going around saying that TA presidents have a choice to say yes or no to RAD.
That's Stan Morse.
Stan Morse, thank you. Has perpetuated a myth throughout the whole NYCHA developments that TA presidents have the authority to say yes or no to RAD. That is a myth. That is not the truth. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we don't. We have no choice in the matter, number one. We do not get paid on the side to promote it, number two. And when you make a broad spectrum statement like that, the TA presidents are on the take, you're putting our safety at risk. Exactly. Okay, and I confronted him about that because he has a podcast, and he has a podcast with Sandrea Coleman of the One NYCHA group. All right, they are co-producers together. And Sandrea is a resident of NYCHA, Stan is not. And you cannot make statements that TA presidents are on the take, because I got surrounded by a bunch of tenants I didn't even know one day, and was told that I'm not trying to get the gas turned back on because NYCHA's paying me to keep it off, because they listen to the One NYCHA podcast. Okay, that puts my safety at risk. We had another president recently that got thrown down an entire flight of stairs from the elevated platform in the Bronx. He now has a broken collarbone. Why? Because Fight for NYCHA made comments about TA presidents, and they threw him down the stairs.
Wait, you said Fight for NYCHA. That wasn't us.
I'm sorry, not Fight for NYCHA. Sorry, you're right. No, but you know, he can't say that Justice for All Coalition was behind it. But when someone says you presidents aren't shit, you're not fighting for residents, and you harm one of us, we take that very seriously when there's a group going around making outlandish statements that presidents are on the take, that presidents are fake, that presidents don't fight for their residents, because now we have presidents getting hurt. Okay, so what Stan Morse is doing and what Sandrea Coleman is doing is reckless behavior. They have a small platform, but it's getting people hurt.
Okay, I want to give some time to the people. I've been asking for people to put in questions, but I think people want to talk. So in about 5 minutes, we're going to go to people talking. I just want to pick up on just two last things that you said, Cynthia. One was, you know, we had all these Black Lives Matter marches last year, and not one of them, you know, organized out of NYCHA. And I thought that was a pretty glaring omission, even though, you know, Black Lives Matter admittedly is a different issue, centered around police brutality, but there should have been some form of solidarity. And secondly, there was something you said about, I think a lot of the hate being driven toward TA presidents, you have to look at all the community groups that are involved. One of the community groups that, you know, that Fight for NYCHA interacted with very briefly was Movement School. It's a political arm of AOC. They decided that they were going to train to run again for the TA president position, and some of the suspicion or some of the animosity that you're sensing could be coming from those kind of groups that have a different agenda, which from the outset they are admitting they want to replace the TA presidents. You know, some of that animosity could be coming from there.
Well, they banned it. Well, first of all, Justice for All Coalition and the Movement School are united together. they work together all the time.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get the same energy when you've got the same cliques involved.
Yeah, I'm assuming. So, Melanie, do you have any other remarks before we let other people speak?
Just to say that, you know, we do our best to educate residents, and I think, you know, we need to be, we're going to be a lot more vocal about these groups, and I think, you know, we have to just keep educating the residents. And I'm also definitely wanting CCOP to get more involved. We need to have all of the TA presidents united. That to me would be also very, it's needed. It's needed so that we can have this communication gap start to close. And that's where I think our power would lie, in uniting the residents, because it's just a mess. It's a lot of myths, propaganda, and nobody knows what to believe. So we need to bridge that gap.
Okay, a couple people wanted to speak. Tenant advocacy, do you want to say something? And then Pappas Lawrence, you can speak. You'll have to unmute yourself if you want to speak. But try to do this orderly, please.
Thank you, everyone. Special thanks to Ms. Melanie Aucello. I'm fairly new to a lot of the individuals on the board, but I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Craig Housen. I'm the founder and president of Tenant Advocacy Team. And we have been here on the front lines doing pretty much the same advocacy work that you guys are involved in as well. And a lot of my experiences are in line with what you guys said and have touched on. And just to piggyback off of what was just said, we too have to be wary of who we conduct our seminars with, who we invite to our events. And we were in contact with Sunrise Coalition, and we were contemplating on working with them until it was brought to my attention that their agendas might not be in line with what our agendas were. And so on that note, we had to sever ties and separate ways. No bad blood or no feelings involved, but we have to be very meticulous about who we bring to our neighborhoods, who we allow to speak to our tenants. Now, there were some things that I did not exactly agree with. Most of it had to do with the TA presidents, and just to bring some clarity to my position. No TA president should have to live in fear for their safety or their family's safety. No TA president should be threatened because of anybody's lack of understanding for the situation and how deep it is. Now, with that said, I'm in support of the TA presidents who are doing the job as it should be done. Melanie Aucello referred to my TA president, our current TA president here at Williams Plaza Houses, Mr. Joel Gross. And Mr. Joel Gross has not really been forthcoming with our tenants, our residents. The meetings that are held in our complexes sometimes are only advertised in one language, which happens to be the native tongue of the TA president himself. Our TA president is rumored to have 5 different apartments within these complexes. There has not been an election held in over 6 years. And the results surrounding those elections are shady to say the least. The same TA president has been TA president for 14 years. So I do recognize that there are really outstanding TA presidents in the field, such as Melanie Aucello. And this is not to take away from what the good TA presidents are doing or have been doing. But we cannot turn a blind eye to the fact that there are TA presidents who are misusing the position there are TA presidents who are not properly representing the full complex or the full makeup of that complex. In our complex, for example, it's a human rights issue. We have racism going on. We have people being denied their basic rights to vote and participate in a tenant election, whether it's for a board position or whether it's for a TA presidency. So I say this not to step on nobody's toes or to bash anybody, but just to bring clarity and awareness to what's going on the other side here in Williamsburg. That's affecting Williamsburg, Williams Plaza houses, Berry houses, and Independence Towers. Now, I agree that the takeover is illegal. The company that's doing business on our side is a company called Omni.
Okay,
and based
yes.
off the
I'm sorry, I just want to make time for other people to speak. We know the situation at NYCHA is dire. The purpose of today's Zoom is to talk about how the landscape of the community groups that are doing this work, how they interfere. So if you want to reflect on that, and we'll give you a couple more minutes to speak, but I want to let the other gentleman have a chance to speak too.
I appreciate.
Okay,
I'll just wrap up quick. I do agree that we have to do proper background check and vetting for these groups that invite themselves into our agendas. Our work right here is life and death. I'm a veteran. I'm a Navy veteran, and I believe that people's lives depend on the work that we do. So it's important that we join forces with like-minded individuals that are not tainted by political influences. Because the job that we do has no political affiliation. It's a mom and a dad with 3 kids wondering, are they going to make it through winter? And that's why I'm involved. I'm not affiliated with any party or any political group. I'm a military vet who's invested in protecting the tenants and the residents of my complex. We're having a protest, the 13th.
okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to ask the other gentleman to speak. Mr. Lawrence. If you'd like to say a few things.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, I believe so.
All right, I just wanted to make sure. Sorry if I mess up or anything. Hi, my name is Damon Lawrence. I work within the Bushwick houses, and I currently work with the youth. We've been, and again, Melina, it's not to offend, because I know I've heard some dope ass stories about some TA presidents, but it's not for every development, because our TA president gaslighted us in the beginning of the year and made it seem like what me and the kids were doing was like bad for the community. And not only that, they've done so many gaslighting to me and the kids, and I've been trying to tell them like I'm very transparent with them, which is why the youth really mess with me in Bushwick. But I've got gaslighted. I got looked at like I was crazy. And I kept telling these people like Lost Shore, Mayor's Action Plan, these people have alternative motives, and they're not really coming in here with the right mindset. They're coming in here for smiles and shits and giggles, and it's like, guys, these are real people, and you're affecting what's going on just to smile for the cameras. And I've had some things done to me. I've had some things done to me as far as the organization goes. But I posted my information if y'all want to see it. How would you? Because I'm not the TA president, right? And I'm gonna run for it. But the amount of things that's transpired and been taking place, everybody keep telling me I should just produce it and just fuck it, wherever it goes, it goes. But I feel like if I produce the things that I have, like the recordings of the meetings, the recordings of the phone conversations, the gaslighting, the making it seem like I'm like the range, or what do you call that? A specific type of residence that's mad, a disgruntled resident. And it's just like I feel like I would not only ruin people's like careers, but I would ruin people's character because I've come to find out that the TA president is not doing. She's been doing insidious things behind my back to other 501c3s, and they've been telling me. Not only have they been telling me, but there's also been other residents who've been coming to me about some of the issues that she's been like going about. So what would y'all like recommend as far as communicating all the way until November when the election comes back? Because the things that they've done is just ridiculous.
Okay, I'll let
It's
Can I say
you.
ridiculous.
something real fast?
Go ahead, let me
say
put myself on mute.
Okay, so in the chat, I put Janelle Hudson's email address. She is the director of resident engagement. She is actually in charge of all of us. We all are given a set of bylaws that we have to follow. And if we do not follow them, then we get removed. The president before me used the community room as a doggy daycare center. Okay? She never had a meeting in there. I had to give video. I had to give pictures to show. The police had to show up there and evict. She had homeless people staying there at night, taking care of the dogs. And then all the evidence got submitted into Janelle Hudson, and they had to physically remove her as president, remove all of her stuff out of the room, and take her title away. So Janelle Hudson's email is in the chat. I put it in there. You need to start documenting all your information, and you need to start sending emails to her and ask her who is the coordinator for here. We need elections done over. Elections are every 3 years. Every 3 years, there's no getting around it. So if it's not being done there, it's because nobody is contesting the people that are currently in office.
Yes, here's the thing, right? And they keep on, the TA president, she keeps on making it seem like I'm like the person that's incorrect, I'm wrong, and
Don't
I,
deal with Janelle.
Yep.
all right.
That's her boss. We
Because-
all answer to somebody, and you can't go
Uh-huh.
any higher than Janelle Hudson.
All right, because I just like, because the reason why I'm hesitant is because I feel like I'm gonna really fuck up somebody's career. Because it's not just the TA president, it's actually a 501c3 and Mayor's action plan.
But
They're-
if
they're-
I can just say something to you, one thing I've learned from doing this work as a resident and as a TA president is no longer to have fear, because you have to recognize the system is broken, the system does not work, and I've learned most importantly, we as residents have to stop expecting the system to work. You've got video, blast it on social media, bring it to the police. Like Cynthia said, you have to document it. Once you do that and you lose that being fear, there is no, what's most fearful is living in the fear and knowing what you know and not doing anything about it, knowing that when things come down, and it's gonna come down, you're gonna say, I could have stopped it, you know? And like, I'm not saying, please don't put yourself in any physical harm, but you have to come with your proof. Otherwise it didn't happen. You've got a video,
All
put
right.
it on social media. I'm on Twitter. You know, what you're doing right now is one of the biggest steps. You know, you took the time, you attended the Zoom, you're getting information, and now it's putting it into action. You know, but
All right.
that's
Because
the best.
the way they like dressing me up to be is like this really deranged person is because, and I have no intentions on cutting this beard until until I need to. I can look professional, but I'm not gonna look like
Please
look
send that
professional.
email. Please send that
Okay.
email to Janelle, because you know that's what they're going to do. They're going to try to break you down until you stop. So please.
So
And they divided Bushwick. They divided Bushwick. Like the people who were working with those organizations, half of them were like let go without due justice. And if you heard the stories, like I really want to tell everybody's story on what really transpired because they broke up Bushwick.
okay, so to wrap it up, can you name some
Sorry.
of the groups that were the problems? Who were the groups that were causing the problems?
Oh, are you talking to me specifically?
Yeah, just name
All
some
right, so
groups that you thought were being a problem for you in Bushwick.
this is not a thought. I joined the organization, Lost Shore, and the Mayor's Action Plan because I really thought that and saw that they were here for us. And I saw that they had the money for us and we were going to get things going. So I got a lot of the people in Bushwick involved. Like without me, there would be no WIC against violence. The Lord Shaw would be stressed out trying to find people and getting these programs going and people attending. And they, I started it and I was learning so much from it. And it's not fear. It's just like I feel like I'm gonna really fuck up somebody's career if I post everything. But I hear what you're saying. And I'm just gonna have to do it because it's ridiculous because they separated like the people, even the youth, like they don't even want to join the WIC against violence because of the people that they hired is a dope head.
Can you say the names of the groups specifically again, please? What are they called?
Okay, so it's the TA for Bushwick Project, which is midshipman, and then it's Lost Shore, which is the director. The executive director is Juan Ramos, and the mayor's action plan, because I hit up the head person for that, which is Renita something F. And I have the whole Zoom. I kept telling them I lose sleep reading the laws, and you guys keep on gaslighting me and making it seem like I'm crazy, and I'm not. You guys are not following the laws, and you're all making it seem like these kids and what they've been doing is wrong and it's fucked up because this is the youth. You guys wanted them to to participate, but you're doing the opposite to that. They even separated me from a meeting that we were supposed to have, inappropriately separated me and investigated the kids. And I have the recordings. And it's just like, it's like they really, when it comes to Bushwick, there's two groups. It's not a whole Bushwick. It's two groups. It's those who are working with the TA and Law Shore and whatever, and those behind the scenes who's trying to make it a bit more livable in Bushwick because there's too much conflict going on currently.
Okay.
Stop focusing on the part about them making you look crazy and just focus on your actual documentation and submitting it to the right people. That's all you need to focus on. We've all been told we're crazy. Get over it.
And put your email in the chat if you'd like to, and then we can all try and remain in contact.
Yeah, I put it down there. I even put it my professional one and my personal one, as well as you guys can check us out on Instagram with the kids. It's called Projects Just Us. Projects with an S, Just Us.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay. So we're almost at our 1 hour mark. If I'd like to wrap up before 5, I think other people have some place else to go. Cynthia, do you want to say any closing comments before I yield?
Oh, wait 1 second. I'm sorry to interrupt. Fight for NYCHA. Can you just is it possible if you can email or if I can link with you later on or something? Because I like what's going on here, and we really need to like have this annual meetings so that we can pull resources from each other and the information can be put out there easier, because these kind of things are hard. It's really hard to do when you have like 20 other things that you're doing. But yeah, that's I'm gonna put me in.
Sure. Yeah, we'll send you an email. Cynthia, do you want to have any closing ideas or thoughts?
Yeah, we just have to work together as one unified group. We have to start working together because just like you knew movement school was messed up, I knew movement was connected with Justice for All. We have to sync up together because it's just going to make us stronger. What one doesn't know, the other one does.
There you
I
go.
investigate all of them. So this is how we keep it tight.
Exactly.
We keep it tight by knowing, because, you know, they have their own agendas and they're 501c4s. They're 3s and 4s. So anyone who says they're a not-for-profit, I guarantee you somewhere in that development, they've got a C4 going on where they're making money off of it. And they're just not promoting it, because then you find out that they're not in it for the residents, they're in it for the money.
Okay, that's correct. I agree with you. Melanie?
On Instagram, was it Project for Us?
Project Just Us.
Just Us, okay.
So the only thing I have to say is exactly to piggyback on what Cynthia said. What one TA knows, the other one might not necessarily know. By Mr. Lawrence, this gentleman who just spoke up right
I was mute.
Sorry, but no, it's okay. I'm just saying, for him speaking up like this, these are the things that they're afraid of, right? Us being in unison. And like Cynthia said, we must work together. We have to show up for meetings. We have to show up for if you see a flyer up about, you know, an event, especially
You've been hiding meetings.
with Fight for NYCHA, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and you know, we're making moves, and we need the people to we need to spread the knowledge, and we do that
Word.
tonight. Thank you.
Okay, so this video will be going up on YouTube. I just want to make sure everyone is understands that. And lastly, I do want to close with the fact that even though Fight for NYCHA does, you know, focus on the mayor as being responsible, he can't do what he's doing without a lot of help. And we've been revealing that other politicians, you know, support him in what he's doing. Either they support him or they're keeping quiet, which allows him to get away with it. So it's important to always call out every politician that's involved. It's not just the mayor, it's other people as well. So we're gonna go ahead and close, and we may do a second video of this depending on how people respond to it. So I wanna thank everybody, especially Melanie and Cynthia, for making the time to help talk about their experiences with other community groups and other activists. Okay,
Always.
thank you
And
very much.
remember, it's projects with an S, just us. I literally did it because they were doing too much, and I was like, you know what, let me make an LLC because they're doing too much. And now we're about to teach the kids how to make their own LLCs and make T-shirts so that they got money in their pockets for school year. So hit me up.
Okay,
And just to put it out there for everybody, we're having a protest in Williamsburg on the 13th of this month, and it's against the transition that's taking place. It's against the conditions that people are being forced to live in. Every support is definitely a support. We're all in this together. Our way of lives are all being affected. Thanks again to Melanie. You are such an inspiration in more ways than I could say. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm definitely posted to everything you do and taking notes as well. So thanks to everybody. Again,
Thank
it was
you.
a wonderful meeting.
And I just want to say also, thank you so much. And thank you to Cynthia and Louis, the inspiration and the knowledge level that these people have are my sources as well. And it's very rare to find. So I'm appreciative of that. And we're protesting tomorrow at the Brooklyn Borough Hall against Eric Adams because Fight for NYCHA fights the powerhouse. Without Bill de Blasio, we wouldn't be suffering. So we'll be out there tomorrow at 12 o'clock. If anyone wants to join the protest, we will see you there. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace.
Good night.
Good night.